This is going to be one of those episodes where I just tell you to stop this video and go see the movie right now. So, just go watch it. Rent it, stream it, whatever. Just put it in your brain space, okay? I'll wait.
It was so tra-la-la and so la-di-da.
Well? I know, right? The Love Witch, brainchild of writer-director Anna Biller, writer-director-producer Anna Biller. Oh wait, writer-director-producer, art director, set designer, editor, music? Shit! This is Anna Biller's movie. Simple as that. The film sprang forth fully formed from the brow of Anna Biller. The Love Witch is one of the best cases ever made for the auteur theory. Biller, a graduate of UCLA and CalArts, made her debut in 2007 with Viva, displaying her commitment to a unified vision of filmmaking not only in concept, but also in look. Oh my god, we're in a cake! This scene was shot on location in a cake. Everything is made of cake. It's cake. We all live in a cake. This movie is gorgeous. Just, everything is so meticulously planned and pretty, and it's
is a magical thing. Love will make you feel like a queen or a king. Unicorns, rainbows, lucky charms await you in your true love's arms.
Corny as Kansas in August. The Love Witch is great. Anna Biller's awesome. She's one of the most fascinating voices in modern movie making, period. Here's her blog, here's her Twitter. She has an engaging and insightful online presence. Check her out. Now, I want to try an experiment. While you were watching The Love Witch, what came to mind? What movies popped into your head? What titles? What genre? What era of filmmaking? Where did your mind go? Because it feels like you should be thinking of other films, right? The Love Witch seems to beg you to gaze into it and open your mind to its universe of itself. But what's that universe? I've been deliberately trying to avoid saying anything specific that might guide your mind towards any one thing. Because that place where your head went, those movies you thought of, that era, that genre, that style, that's what I want to talk about. Maybe for the era, you thought late 60s, early 70s. For genre, you might have thought exploitation, or more specifically, sexploitation. Maybe because of the subject matter and the period style, you thought of this. Or maybe even this character. Morticia Addams meets the Love Witch. There's a crossover.
You have enslaved him. You have placed him under some strange sexual spell. I respect that. But what? Pastels?
Or maybe you saw the saturated colors and stagey blocking and corny delivery and thought of this. Or you watched it and mentally added this silhouette at the bottom of the screen. Or, if you're like me, you looked at this style and this set design and this acting and your mind drifted back to classic Star Trek.
I'd say someone was playing an elaborate trick or treat on us.
Trick or treat, Captain?
Yes, Mr. Spock.
You might have thought of words like feminist, which, yeah, it's definitely feminist, but a feminist what? A feminist parody? Pastiche? Deconstruction? Spoof? Of what? And then your brain went back to that portmanteau of sexploitation. Or maybe, just maybe, you thought, this is a bad movie, but it's bad on purpose. It's a so bad it's good movie. Those are things, right?
Love is a magical thing.
Frodo of the Nine Fingers. Anyway, I was curious to see how other critics discussed it. What connections they made, what films they cited. So I went through Rotten Tomatoes and found interesting stuff. Everyone seemed to use the phrase sexploitation, mentioning films like Super Vixens, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, and especially Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, all directed by this guy, Russ Meyer. Russ Meyer came up a lot. In their review, Time Out guessed that Biller was an obvious fan of Meyer. I saw critics call her a feminist Tarantino, because Biller, like Tarantino, seems to enjoy old obscure movies. They assumed Biller was doing the same kind of hyperlink everything is a remix style of filmmaking. When discussing the lead actress, the LA Times compared Samantha Robinson to Barbara Steele, the star of this film, by Italian horror director Mario Bava. Writing for RogerEbert.com, Glenn Kinney compared her to Soledad Miranda, the star of a few fleshy erotic horror films by Jess Franco. And in his review, Mark Kermode joked about The Wicker Man.
And they suddenly have this really strange marriage ceremony that you keep imagining at any moment somebody's going to start building a wicker man in the background and set fire to it.
Now, here's the curious thing. All of those connections, none of them were intended. In fact, Anna Biller was offended by some of those connections. Like all those Russ Meyer comparisons. On her Twitter, she said this: "Is this me? My camera? And my attitude towards my actresses? Really?" So, let's believe her. If she wasn't influenced by Russ Meyer, then who? In her director's commentary on the film, Biller cited this film as an influence. Gertrude, directed by Carl Theodor Dreyer. Like Elaine the Love Witch, Gertrude is a woman who longs for love, but can't accept the forms that love takes. She also cited this film as a thematic influence. Jean Tierney plays a woman named Ellen, who, like Elaine, is caught between her desires and her need to satisfy the desires of others. A tension which decays into sociopathy. Critics compared Samantha Robinson to Soledad Miranda and Barbara Steele, but Biller once compared her star to Kathleen Byron, who played Sister Ruth in Powell and Pressburger's Black Narcissus, a nun who falls for a man she can't have. Another woman caught between desire and duty, driving her mad. In that respect, she's similar to this character, Petra von Kant, another woman who wants what she can't have, and so asserts herself through domesticity, cosmetics, through feminine acts. Another influence? Late Hitchcock. Elaine could be Tippi Hedren, driving down a rear-projected highway, tormented by her unmet needs. But she's also Anthony Perkins, staring into the camera, mocking us in voiceover.
What a pussy. What a baby.
Why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
And that Ren Fair scene?
Unicorns, rainbows, lucky.
Yeah, that. Stylistically, it calls back to this film by Jacques Demy, a musical fairy tale starring Catherine Deneuve as a princess who wears beautiful dresses, bakes cakes, and woos a man to get her happy ending. It's one of the few direct references she made. And in The Love Witch, there are very, very few direct references. Here's one. You'll never get it. It's a recreation of a similar shot in John Dielman. Yet another woman, trapped by domestic duties, using feminine sexuality as a means of escape and empowerment. So I looked at this list of influences, and I realized two things. One, Anna Biller has impeccable taste in movies. And two, they're all about women. They are all about women. Let me clarify. The average Russ Meyer movie is about women in the same way that the average ad for Arby's is about cows. It's so disinterested in the inner lives of its characters, and so overly interested in how they look while they're fighting and dancing and sexing, in curating feminine aesthetics for the sake of masculine consumption. What Laura Mulvey famously called the male gaze. The films Biller cites as influences are all deep, empathetic character studies exploring traditionally feminine aspects of life. And The Love Witch follows suit, recalling older cinematic expressions of the feminine experience. In Biller's own words, a lot of the women's B pictures and melodramas of classic Hollywood, for instance, were great for women and contained both a male gaze and a female, narcissistic gaze. I knew that these films were positive for women, and what Laura Mulvey did for me was to focus my goals on recreating this earlier type of cinema that could be cinematically pleasurable for women. This idea can be found throughout feminist theory, the argument that it's not enough to elevate females, but also femininity, and that empowering women in masculine roles, fighter, adventurer, that sort of macho stuff, all only reinforces the masculine as the only legitimate sphere of power. And if it looks like a cheaply made movie from the Nixon era, well, I'll let Biller explain.
But I think that whoever made the Mephisto vaults, or Mario Bava or some of those directors, they were looking at the same films I'm looking at that were the Technicolor films of the 50s and 60s, and they were studying those.
Makes sense to me. So what Biller's work has done is rather disturbing. By showing that disconnect between the connections critics make and the connections she made, she's proven there's something deeply, deeply wrong with the way we talk about film history. Because it feels like so many of our cultural touchstones in film history focus on the history of masculinity and masculine interests and stories, exploring the strategies and values associated with masculine behavior, which would be fine, except it's done to the detriment of feminine interests and stories. When Laura Mulvey wrote of the male gaze, she focused on the camera. Biller is also deconstructing the male gaze, but not the gaze of the camera, the gaze of the historian. How so often in the history of film we exalt examinations of masculine behavior, and stories of feminine values and behaviors are warped for male consumption and made for cheap, and because of that we aestheticize the grunginess and sleaziness and laugh at it because it's bad. And in that process, we forget. We forget an entire sphere of human behavior. So the brilliance in the filmmaking of Anna Biller is in what she helps us to remember. What Anna Biller has done isn't just tell a feminist story. She's engaging in the feminization of film history itself. And that's awesome. I'm sure the comments on this video are going to be absolutely delightful.